Yo, what's up everybody? My name's Jake Demai. I am a bookkeeper. I own a bookkeeping business in South Jersey, and I love bookkeeping. I love accounting. I have been doing it for 10 years now. I started my business about 4 years ago, and ever since then I've fell in love with bookkeeping. QuickBooks has been challenging. In the very beginning when I started, I didn't know QuickBooks very well. I knew accounting. I knew how to do the debits and credits, but QuickBooks was a whole nother beast. I had to learn how to understand the software, understand the bank feed, figure out how it works behind the scenes, what the mechanics were like. And so those were some of the challenges I had in the beginning. And in this video, I'm not necessarily talking to other accountants, although this video could be for accountants. This video is mainly for the business owner who wants to do their own books. Okay, so I've broken out the bookkeeping based off of complexity. So I have, I see each client as either simple, intermediate, or complicated or complex. And so if you're a business owner and you, maybe you have a simple set of books, I would say that you're in what I call the DIY zone. If your books are simple, then I think it's something that you can handle, something that you can do yourself if you want to do it. Now, a lot of business owners, they don't want to do their own bookkeeping, and so they're happy to outsource it to somebody like me. I work remotely, and so I can easily jump into your account and I can do the bookkeeping myself. But if you're anything like me, I like to do things to a certain extent. I like to mow my own lawn. I like to do household repairs and maintenance myself. I like to understand how things work. I like to change the brakes on my car and change the oil. Those kinds of things I like to do because I like to at least understand the basics. And so if you're like me, you might want to do your own bookkeeping. So here's what I would recommend. If you are a business owner, I would recommend not doing the bookkeeping if your books are either intermediately hard or complicated. And that's because you're probably going to mess it up. You're probably going to spend too much time on the books, and you're probably going to want to pull your hair out. It's going to be extremely stressful. Okay, so let me explain to you the difference between simple, intermediate, and complex. Now, a simple set of books in QuickBooks Online would look something like this. There would be no invoicing in QuickBooks, so you wouldn't use QuickBooks for invoicing. You wouldn't use QuickBooks for sending out bills. You wouldn't use QuickBooks for writing out checks. The only purpose of QuickBooks is to use the bank connection to add transactions through the bank feed. Okay, so these are going to be deposits and withdrawals, income and expenses. Those are the two things you're going to be adding in the bank feed. And a simple set of books is going to have maybe under 100 transactions per month. There aren't going to be any loans on the account, and you're only going to keep the QuickBooks up to date for tax purposes, because your CPA at the end of the year is going to need the set of books so they can see, okay, how much money did you make? How much money did you spend? How much money did you take for yourself? They're going to want to see those things. Okay, so this is how you do the bookkeeping for a simple set of books. This is how you do it. Okay, and then I'll jump to the intermediate. If you want to do your own bookkeeping, then you have to go to the bank transactions. So this is where your bank and credit card accounts are connected. And it's really important that all of your bank accounts and all of your credit card accounts are connected to QuickBooks. That'll ensure that everything is included, that you're not missing anything. And so once you've added those and connected those accounts, then you just have to go down the line. I'm not going to share my screen right now, but you have to go down transaction by transaction and assign a category to each transaction. If it's a deposit for income, then it's going to go to the income category. If it's an expense, like you paid a subcontractor, then it's going to go to subcontractor expense. If it's internet for your office, it's going to go to internet. And so it's very simple in that way. You're not matching. You're not doing anything crazy in QuickBooks. You're just adding the expenses, okay? And you're adding the income. Now there are a couple clarifying things I should say on that. Sometimes deposits aren't always income. Sometimes deposits are like personal investments that you made into the company as a business owner. Sometimes deposits are proceeds you got from a loan. Sometimes deposits are like credit card rewards or even transfers that look like deposits, but they're just transfers from another account. You have to look out for those things, but as a general rule of thumb, most deposits are going to be income if you're a business that makes any money. Okay, and then for expenses, it's either going to be an expense, like a legitimate expense for the business, or it's going to be like an owner's draw. And so it's going to be a personal expense. And if it's a personal expense, I put it to owner's distributions or owner's draws, and I treat those as personal. Okay. okay? You can't get an expense. You can't get a deduction for a personal transaction. And so then there's other complications too, but if your books are simple, then you don't really have to worry about those other things. You can just go to the bank feed, you can add the transactions in the bank feed, and then what the next step is reconciling your books. Now, if you're a business owner, this might be way over your head, and you might think to yourself, Jake, I don't even know what you're talking about. And that's okay. Honestly, what you might want to do is hire a bookkeeper just to reconcile your account. And then you can add the transactions, but the bookkeeper can do the reconciliation. But if you want to try the reconciliation feature out, it's very, very easy. All you need is the bank statement and the credit card statement for each of your accounts that you have connected. And when you go into reconcile, you just put in the beginning and ending balances and the ending date into the reconciliation window. And if you did everything in the bank feed, it's a super easy process. I'm telling you, you can do it if you put your mind to it, especially if your books are simple. And that'll ensure that nothing's being duplicated, nothing's being missed, and that you have everything included, okay? So guys, that's what I call the DIY zone for simple bookkeeping. If it's simple, you can do it yourself, but there's two other stages that I would put in the bookkeeper zone. If your books are intermediate or complex, I would highly recommend not trying to do your own books. And I say this for a number of reasons. Like I said, it is stressful to do your own bookkeeping. There's a learning curve. You have to understand accounting concepts that might be tricky to understand. And honestly, guys, you should want to have a clean set of books, because your books are going to tell you how your business is doing from a financial perspective. And if you don't understand financial reports right now, that's okay. But if your books are not making sense, then you're especially not going to understand the reports. And so I would recommend getting the reports together, getting them accurate, hiring a bookkeeper to do them, and then understanding what the numbers mean, because the numbers will make a lot more sense if the numbers are right. So an intermediate set of books, guys, would look something like this. It would be the bank feed. It would be simple bookkeeping plus invoicing in QuickBooks and like bill pay in QuickBooks, plus maybe like writing out checks in QuickBooks. So if you're sending out invoices in QuickBooks, then instantly your books have become intermediately hard. They've become, these set of books are now in the bookkeeper zone. And so this would mean that you would need to potentially hire a bookkeeper or put a lot of time and effort into your own bookkeeping. The reason it gets more challenging is because when you add an invoice in QuickBooks, that invoice and the payment that's received for that invoice has to be matched to the bank feed. And so the name of the game, guys, when it comes to intermediate and complicated bookkeeping, the name of the game is matching in QuickBooks bank feed. You have to match in the bank feed, and you have to be comfortable with matching, and you have to match correctly. So matching is so important, and it's one of those things I just didn't understand in the beginning that I understand now, that every expense or income item, like an invoice or a received payment, has to be matched to the corresponding transaction that comes through the bank feed. You have to match, okay? Now, some other complicated things that can happen in the intermediate stage are like loans that you might have that need to be broken out between interest and principal. You might have payroll that has to be broken out, like gross payroll versus the payroll taxes. You might have other balance sheet accounts like fixed assets or other liabilities, like line of credits or whatever it might be, guys. Typically the balance sheet is a little bit more complicated, and the profit and loss chart of accounts is a little bit more detailed, okay? So that's intermediate accounting. Complex accounting, I'm not gonna go too much into that, because if you started this video out, you probably are already overwhelmed. But complex bookkeeping would look something like this. Maybe you have like 15 balance sheet accounts. You have 5 loans. You have 4 bank accounts, and you're transferring amounts between each bank account. You have a few credit cards. Maybe you have different credit cards for each of your employees. Maybe you have like a third-party like platform, like Jobber or Expensify or Toast, and you need to integrate it with QuickBooks. That's when it becomes really complicated, and that's when it becomes critical for you to have somebody who's more experienced to do your books, somebody like me. But if you wanted to do it yourself, you would really have to understand how it works behind QuickBooks. Like QuickBooks will do it at the click of a button, but you have to be able to understand the mechanics, what's happening under the hood. That's what's important. And so guys, that's just a little bit about how I would approach the bookkeeping, especially if you're a business owner and you're looking to do it yourself. Really take a hard look at your bookkeeping and ask yourself if it's something you can do. If you're really not sure, then ask me. I can jump into your account and I can tell you if I think that you're capable of doing the books yourself. Or if you just want a bookkeeper to look at your books at the end of the year, you could do that too. A bookkeeper can easily just jump in, make a few adjustments, reconcile the accounts, and you'll be on your way. But as long as you stay on top of it, that's the key, and that's what's going to help you keep clean books. Okay, thanks guys.